Hey everybody, today I'm going to be talking about the channel Psych2Go again. I made a video on these guys a few months back. This channel holds a very special place in my heart because I actually used to watch these guys back in 2019 when I was really emo and in the middle of an Undertale phase. It was a terrible time, but that is not important. What is important is that I saw one of their videos titled 10 Signs You Have Depression or something along those lines, and then self-diagnosed myself with it for a little while. Obviously, I realized that was fucking retarded, and that I do not, in fact, have depression. So the first video we're going to be going over is called 5 Psychology Facts About Quiet People. I assume it's going to be that classic, did you know that introverts are actually smarter than extroverts? Bullshit, but we're about to find out.
If you need to be heard, talk to a quiet friend.
See, this is why I don't like this fucking channel. They always glorify shit that doesn't need to be glorified. Introvertedness isn't a mental illness, so I can't talk about mental illnesses here. But this is the type of shit that makes people want to actively be antisocial, because it makes them seem like a cool, mysterious introvert. Seriously, really think about what they're saying here. If you need to talk to someone about your problems, you should talk to an introvert, because they're way better than stupid extroverts, like Jaden from school. Fuck you, Jaden.
There should be 2 roles, a speaker and a listener.
No, there shouldn't be 2 roles. It's a conversation. It's meant to be fluid. One person shouldn't just be talking to the other person while they say nothing. It's meant to be constant back and forth, otherwise it's less of a conversation and more of just a speech.
Quiet people as leaders. There are definitely introverted leaders out there. Film directors, CEOs, and retail managers can all be successful leaders while being introverts. These people are in important positions and, by the nature of their roles as leaders, have to cooperate with people all day, every day. So how do they manage to lead despite seemingly not having ideal extroverted traits for leadership?
Because they're way better than extroverts, obviously. You know, not to get too preachy here, but I don't really like how people are just lumped into these 2 groups. It's always extroverts and introverts. There's no in-between. The truth is, everyone's different, and your personality and the way you interact with others is completely dependent on your environment. Obviously, your personality is not going to completely change, but you will act differently. I'd consider myself to be an extrovert, but if you put me in a room filled with a bunch of people I've never spoken to, you could take one look at me and assume I'm an introvert. Extroverts don't constantly talk to everyone they make eye contact with, and introverts aren't huddled in some corner trying to avoid all social interaction like it's the fucking bubonic plague.
An introverted leader is far more effective when working with passionate team members who have their own ideas. An introverted leader is able to understand and fully utilize their strengths and their team's strengths. This is why they're so effective in creative fields like film.
No, they're not. See, this is just like what I said before. Everyone's different. Whether you're outgoing and you like social interaction or you just stay in your room all day isn't going to affect your creativity. Again, I'm an extrovert, but I've been a theater nerd for the past, 5 years. I go crazy at acting, but according to these people, no, I'm an extrovert, so I can't use my team's strength to my advantage. You see what I mean now? Before we move on to the next video, I want to share a little anecdote about a friend I used to have. I say used to have because for reasons you will come to find out, we are no longer friends. So this fella had an emo phase in 2022 and did a bunch of really stupid shit. Perhaps one of the least stupid things he did was call himself an introvert and make that his entire personality for a little while. I'm sure we all know someone like this, you know, the person that takes a personality test and revolves their entire personality around the results for a little while. Anyway, this fella sent me several screenshots of this video he was watching called 60 Things Unawful About Shy People in 60 Seconds. By the way, unawful isn't even a word. But, you know, on top of that, he also faked depression, told me to cut myself, tried to manipulate me numerous times. Now he's a furry, but that's a story for another time. Now, the thumbnail of this next video isn't helping the reputation of the channel very much. It's 3thin editing here. So I was editing this video and I just remembered, I got this ad under one of the videos I was reviewing here. Kind of just goes to show what kind of audience these guys have. I dated the girl last year, and after we broke up, she went through an Omori phase, became a he-it, now she's faking DID, but again, that's a story for another time.
When you hear the word depression, do you automatically think of a downturned face or a person sitting alone in the corner crying?
No, I think of how I feel when my entire TF2 lobby is filled with bots. I hate my life. No, what the?
Number 1, their surroundings burn, and yet they smile.
Holy shit, are they trying to appeal to the edgy crowd that thinks depression is some quirky, mysterious personality trait? Their surroundings burn, and yet they smile. Coming to a theater near you this winter.
As the term smiling depression isn't an official diagnosis. It's more clinically called major depressive disorder with atypical features.
Oh yeah, atypical features. Like not having depression. I don't mean that to say that if someone smiles, they don't have depression, but if someone has symptoms that are completely unrelated to depression and they just get a little bit sad sometimes, they can just say that those completely unrelated symptoms are atypical features and not a sign that they don't actually have depression.
Number 2, they give constant, vague excuses like, I'm busy, whenever they're invited out.
You hear that, boys and girls? If your friends ask you to hang out and you say that you're busy, you must have depression.
Number 3, everything is a joke, and they see themselves as one too.
Alright, now this one's pretty much a description of me. I try to make jokes out of everything, including myself, but obviously I don't have depression. The issue with these signs that someone might have depression is that they're just too vague. If someone does actually have depression and they want to hide it, you're not going to find out unless they just tell you. You can't watch a few YouTube videos and then suddenly you're the depression sleuth and you can tell if someone has depression just by looking at them. Humans are complex beings. Aside from a smile or a frown, there's no real way to gauge what someone is really feeling unless they just tell you. And to this video's credit, even facial expressions can be misleading.
It's when the jokes can be really unfunny to a group or person involved that this can be an indicator of depression. One type is aggressive humor, when one uses humor to put other people down, to manipulate, ridicule, and offend them.
Alright, so, according to these guys, if you have ever made an unfunny joke, you might have depression. If you have ever bullied someone by making jokes about them, you might have depression.
Another type of humor that masks depression is self-defeating humor. One has the inclination to put oneself down to make other people laugh.
Yeah, see, this is what I do a lot. I don't want to use myself as an example all too much, because then it's just going to sound like my entire argument is, I've never witnessed this, therefore, it is not real. But again, these descriptions are just too vague. Now, this might sound like a conspiracy theory, but remember that it's just that. A theory. A shitty mental illness overdiagnosis theory. I genuinely do not know why Psych2Go would want to convince people to self-diagnose themselves with mental illnesses. Maybe they don't actually want that, but I doubt they're this oblivious. The truth is that these videos just have a vague, generic set of categories that anyone could fall into. And I bet that you could relate to at least one of the categories described in any given video that they put out.
4, they get her all done during the day and then utterly collapse once they're home.
So if you have ever come home from a long day at school or work, or maybe both, and you don't want to do anything for the rest of the day because you're just tired, you, good sir or madam, have depression. On a side note, I feel like a lot of people would really just want to be able to say that they have depression just as an excuse to be lazy. This isn't related to what I said before, because obviously if you have a long day and you just want to get some rest afterwards, there's nothing wrong with that. Where I do have an issue is where people who are like actually lazy try to excuse it by just saying, oh, I have depression, so it's okay. You know, shockingly, depressed people don't actually sit on their asses all day and play Valorant and eat hot Cheetos. They do actually have lives.
Number 5, increased empathy and desire to empower others because they've been there.
So if you've ever been down in the dumps and one of your friends helped you out, or vice versa, I hate to break it to you, man, but one of you's depressed.
And number 6, when straight up asked what's wrong, they always give a vague hand wave excuse like, oh, I'm just tired.
So if you've ever been sad and someone asked you if you were okay and you just said you were tired, do I even need to finish the statement? You already know what I'm going to say. Before we end this video, I want to give an honorable mention to this one video brought to my attention by the Bomber that's been featured in Fortnite Funnies a number of times.
Answer is 1.5.
Okay, nerd device.
The reason I didn't talk about it was just because there wasn't a lot to talk about. Anyway, that's going to be the end of the video. If you want to give me some feedback or recommend something else for me to cover in a future video, you can leave a comment or join my Discord server. I do polls there all the time, so I can figure out what you want to see next, from video topics to video lengths and what gameplay should be shown in the background. So if you want to have some input in what content I make, feel free to join.